Welcome back to the Medtech Snapshot, the one question, one answer digest podcast, where we cover all things medical device. With me today is a good friend of mine. He's been on the podcast before, so this is certainly not his first rodeo, Bill Colone. Bill, we're going to talk about really two things today, both kind of in the startup world, but one, how do you identify that need? And then how do you actually build a company around that need? And then the second piece is, as you're building up that company, how do you leverage good partnerships? Organizations like contract manufacturers, CDMOs, consultants, to actually help you scale that business and go in the right direction. So stay tuned.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks for having me on. And for question number one, I have to admit, I never come up with the ideas. So I'm not the person that figures out the unmet need. Really through the physician network and just through the longevity of my career, doing this for so long, I get a reasonable amount of outreach, sometimes 1 or 2 calls a week. Typically, though, even at least 2 or 3 a month, where physicians tell me I have an idea for an unmet need. So it happens so frequently. The first thing is I have to know that I can add value for the solution that they're proposing. I'm mostly vascular surgery or endovascular therapies. I'm not going to do any drug devices or any combination devices. So has to be in my area of strength, but then it's the same evaluation all the time. The very simple things has to be clear evidence of a large and growing market. It has to be a very, very clear unmet need. And usually just even, through a lot of market data that's online, you can confirm that. The proposed solution, I believe, has to be something, that really does address the unmet need. And then you get a little bit deeper. Can you get IP, or is IP already obtained on the device idea? And then finally, can you manufacture it and scale it at a cost that is okay to get reimbursement for, or at least you can get a margin when you sell it? So it literally is the same 4 or 5 step evaluation every time a new problem is proposed.
All right. So when you're looking at this process, and like you said, 1, 2, maybe 3 times a week, you're getting contacted about different opportunities. The reality is not all problems are worth solving. So how do you kind of look at these opportunities to really justify? I mean, is it solely based on that market opportunity? Or maybe what are some of the other things that you're kind of looking at specifically related to the individual you're talking to?
Well, a lot of them can be sorted because I literally don't have subject matter expertise. So sometimes it's just left or right of what I think I can add value for. So that gets rid of maybe half of them. And then a surprising number of them get eliminated just with a very simple IP review. Many times physicians who pose the problems to me, they're unaware of IP that's already been issued or public domain information. So quite a few of them get bounced out for that. So between those two, that gets rid of 75 or 80% of what's brought in front of me. Beyond that, then it starts really being, the market and what can we make it for and what can we sell it for. So really, of course, you're balancing the time and the money it would take to get this through the regulatory process. Again, right away, if it's a class 2 device, much easier path than a class 3 device. So there's a certain tolerance of what I think investors will endure for seed stage investing. So if you can convince them of the market, we can get IP. This is a clever solution. It isn't that difficult or expensive of a regulatory process. Going through all that, literally, I say no 9.5 times out of 10.
And that process you just walked us through, how long would you say on average that takes for you to do your due diligence?
Usually within 30 days, but quite a few of them will bounce up literally in the first week. As soon as, I say, hey, I know nothing about that. I'm not going to be the right guy to help you. And then the IP searches are pretty simple that I can do. Sometimes they'll already have either filed IP occasionally, like in Single Pass, which was great. They had issued IP. So we knew for sure, that box was checked. So the quick evaluation can be, as short as a week, but if I have to dig deeper, within 30 days, I'll usually give folks an answer.
All right. So last part of this discussion here is you've done your due diligence, IP checks. What's the next step you're doing once you've determined that this idea that's being presented to you, it fits? It fits within your background. Like we said a moment ago, the IP's checking. What are you now doing next to actually start scaling this company or building up a company around the idea?
Very first thing being in Orange County, it's wonderful because we have all the talent that's here, almost all the vendors that are here. And again, just due to longevity, there are a lot of connections that I work with routinely. And I'll have to know that, hey, I do know a contractor or a series of consultants that I know already have this expertise or similar expertise. So I'll have in mind, if I can go forward and form a company with one of these positions for a new idea, I'll already know who I'm going to approach for putting the business team together. And it's really a combination. The business model we like to use is we don't rent buildings. We don't really hire full-time employees out of the gate. It literally is using contractors that have existing ISO certified facilities with clean rooms that are, FDA registered. That's the simplest route to go. I only pay for their time and their space when used. And then it'll typically be, the series of normal consultants, a regulatory consultant, a clinical consultant, and then engineering talent, same thing. We can do fee for service with a lot of the engineering firms. So that's, I think, is the fastest and the least risky way to get going. We can basically start every project well ahead of startups that need to rent a facility, build a clean room, hire full-time talent. We're already, beyond that stage, literally the day we start.